Kramer versus Kramer was originally written as a novel by Avery Corman. When the producer, that is the man who eventually became the producer, Stanley Jaffe, read it, he immediately thought of Dustin Hoffman as the central character, Ted Kramer. And eventually when the screenwriter Robert Benton came into the project, he too agreed that Dustin Hoffman was the perfect character. The problem was that Dustin Hoffman was going through the very same emotional predicament that Ted Kramer was going through in the screenplay and eventually in the movie, and that is both were experiencing divorce. So when Jaffe, that is the producer, and Benton, the screenwriter and director, approached Hoffman, they found that Hoffman rejected the idea entirely. Number one, he had read Corman's novel and eventually read the Benton script and could not agree with whatever it was that Benton had written in the script. It didn't fit with what Hoffman was going through in his own divorce. Plus, as Benton says later on in an interview, the hardest thing for an actor to do is to play himself. Now that sounds ironic. You'd think that that's the easiest role to perform, but not so. Hoffman agreed to take on the task of the film's central character if he were allowed to rewrite some of the scenes so that it was more in sync with the experience that he was going through. What they were searching for was not some kind of factual description of what goes on in a divorce, but rather the truth. And there's a difference. The truth of the feelings that must be endured as opposed to the actual events that were taking place. For instance, as in the case of Dustin Hoffman's actual divorce. Within the first few minutes of the movie, we recognize that this is a failed marriage. Ted Kramer, who is an upscale, ambitious, successful young ad man who is preoccupied with his job, is married to Joanna Kramer, played by Meryl Streep, who is desperate. The film really microscopically illustrates what was going on throughout the 1960s and in the mid-1970s. People in marriages were seeking greater freedom in their personal lives. If they felt suffocated in a relationship, they sought a way of redefining themselves. And here is a woman who, on the surface in her marriage, was successful and happy, but inside was dying. And so she makes the decision. We see it in the very first shots of the film. Here is a troubled human being. She's terribly imploded, unable to continue as the mother or wife in this family.